and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Invocation.
Today we will have our invocation introduction by Commissioner Clark Coleman.
Good morning. About Pastor Bland. The Reverend Dr. Steve Bland Jr. is the senior pastor of the Liberty Temple Baptist Church, a 2,000 plus member congregation in Detroit, Michigan. Liberty Temple Baptist Church has grown by well over 1,700 members in the past 15 years under Pastor Bland's dynamic leadership, and offers vibrant worship, insightful teaching, inspiring preaching, and over 51 comprehensive ministries that meet the holistic needs of the church, family, and surrounding community he served. He is a former pastor of Pilgrim Baptist Church in Rockford, Illinois, where he served faithfully for 14 years. In May of 2005, Pastor Bland received his Doctor of Ministry degree in the Samuel D. Proctor School of Theology at Virginia Union University in Richmond, Virginia. A student of the late Dr. Miles Jerome Jones, his doctoral thesis addressed, quote, how to transition traditional African-American congregations that are stagnant or in decline into becoming vibrant, relevant ministries. Reverend Bland received a Bachelor of Science in Accountancy degree in 1982 at Northern Illinois University with a minor in music, and a Master's of Divinity degree in Pastoral Theology in '89 from the Central Baptist Theological Seminary in Kansas City, Kansas, with special studies at the Virginia Union Theological Seminary in Richmond, Virginia in '89. Dr. Bland is the president of the Michigan Progressive Baptist State Convention, moderator of the Michigan District Baptist Association, first vice president of the Council of Baptist Pastors of Detroit and vicinity, Progressive National Baptist Convention, and board member of the African American Ministers Leadership Council based in Washington, D.C. He has served as the adjunct professor of homiletics and urban ministry at Ecumenical Theology Seminary, chairman of the Social Justice Commission, chairman of Strategic Planning Committee, Council of the Council of Baptist Pastors of Detroit and vicinity. He still serves on several boards and committees nationwide. Dr. Bland is a native of Chicago, Illinois, and also lived 4 years in Galesburg, Illinois, where his father pastored Bethesda Baptist Church. Reverend Bland is married to the former Phyllis Jeanette Brooks, an educator, and he's the father of 4 and the grandfather of 2. Pastor Bland is the son of the late Reverend Steve and Marguerite Bland. I would like for you all to greet the Reverend Dr. Bland.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is indeed a pleasure for me to come to
be your invoker of the presence of Almighty God in this august body, and let me greet you on behalf of so many of both religious clergy and citizens of our community, and let you know how much we continuously pray for your work and the outcome of the decisions that you make and all that you do on behalf of the citizens of Wayne County. It is my joy to come back to share with you in this session. And I pray that even in my absence, that God would grant you and your families the blessings of the coming seasons that we have, and also that we can work together for the cause of peace. Won't you join me? And prior to let me honor Madam Chair, Alicia Bell as well, and her leadership. And I think it's appropriate for us to just clap our hands and give God praise for her leadership before I pray. And that's me doing that. And also, I wish my wife of 40 now plus years had been here to hear that introduction that was just given by Irma Clark Coleman, because I don't think she believes half of that stuff, but I like to hear it anyway. Bow with me, if you would, for this time of prayer. As we pray, Almighty God, we are grateful for you this morning to breathe upon us the breath of life again. We're yet privileged that we have the ability to wake up this morning where so many did not have that privilege. So we pause and say thank you. We come to you in tradition of you who said, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven, forgive sin and heal the land. We come to you because you are yet the God of Abraham, out of which Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all find their parentage. In that tradition of love of God and love of neighbor and love of self, we come, asking you to allow us to turn to our faith and not our fears, to breathe upon us afresh the privilege that it is to occupy the space that we have, not for ourselves, but on behalf of those, the least of these, who cannot be in this space, whose outcomes that we decide may make the difference in their lives and future. Allow us and grant us the privilege of knowing that even as we stand together, that there are people across waters who are fretful and frightened because of war that has broken out, not just recently, but has been the existence for some many days of their life. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, we pray that our community, even now, will come to understand that even bombs that are dropped there explode here, explode in not only unemployment and vitriol and hatred and division, but polarized communities that you've given us the ability to govern. We pray, oh God, that in a day and a way that we don't know how, but we know who, that if you speak to us, that we can turn our hearts back to that which you declare that we ought be peacemakers. For you said, blessed are the peacemakers, not peace lovers, but peacemakers. So help us in this day in which racism and sexism and militarism and misogyny play with each other like June bugs on a summer day. But yet we are here believing that we can be the people that you want us to be. So it is my prayer, oh God, that just like there are innocent children and babies that are victims of long-held divisions and fractions in the Middle East, and people, oh God, who are gathered, both Jewish and Palestinian, who are the victims of war in West Gaza, we also pray for people who died on the west side of Detroit. We also pray for people who are in our county who might need to know that somebody cares. Red, yellow, black, brown, or white, we're all precious in your sight. So this prayer, I pray, oh God, on behalf of our people and those who govern, and whatever the agenda that comes on today, I just pray that you continue to remind us that within us is the breath that you have given us. And we pray that the stewardship that we have to use it on behalf of the people that you love will be governed, and you will say, well done. we thank you. In the name of He who is our God. Amen.
Amen.
Pastor, that's so kind.
Thank Pastor Bland for those timely words. Awesome prayer. And of course, we pray for peace. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Reading, correcting, and approval of the journal.
Vice Chair Pro Tem Baydun.
Move for approval. Support.
Moved and supported. Any corrections to the journal? Hearing none, please vote.
Look. There we go.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Report from the chair.
I'll wait to the end of the agenda. Next item.
Unfinished business, there is none listed. We are moving to offering of all petitions, ordinances, resolutions, and presentations. You want me to go to the one on the agenda?
Yes, please.
There is one listed on the agenda. Item number 1 is a resolution by Commissioner Bell fully supporting House Bill 4474, which will redefine what constitutes a hate crime in the state of Michigan and expand the protected classes who will receive protection under the law.
Thank you. Oftentimes, we get information from our constituents on issues and items that are important that we can move on here at the full board. I don't know if Ms. Dingus is on the line or how our technical support is doing. Joe Wayne, are we able to? If not, she's a resident of the Grosse Points and Jadana Dingus. And had ethnic intimidation against her at her home, has been working for the last year and a half with the Attorney General, our Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, and our state legislatures to redefine and amend House Bill 4474. So this was passed the House, is in the Senate now, and it just further redefines a hate crime. She is an African-American woman, and her neighbor displayed a KKK flag towards her house and in the efforts to intimidate her. And that sparked her activism at the state level and at the county level. So it's passed the House, it's in the Senate, and we're just, this resolution supports that bill in the House, and hopefully we'll send it to our senators so that they can act as well. I don't know if she's on the line.
Is her name Polly?
Say it again. Polly?
Polly, is that her?
Holly, no. No. Donna, no. That's fine, thank you. Any discussion on this item, Commissioner Basham?
Yes, thanks, Madam Chair. I'm going to support this resolution, but any kind of hate, whether that's ethnic, whether that's race, whether that's young to old, or is wrong, flat out wrong. But the other side to look at this is, why would you give somebody a platform to even acknowledge them? Some people like the fact that you might not like what I did, but now you know I'm there, you know I'm standing up for this or that. And so to look at the other side of these conversations is, why give somebody that's like a killer any kind of name recognition? Why give people that has a symbol that's should be disliked by everybody? Why give them a platform to pull them into this corner? And that's, I just wanted to mention that. I'm going to support this, but the thing of it is, we shouldn't even give those folks a platform that do that to their neighbors. And that's what this is doing. Now you're giving them a platform. Not a good platform, but it's a platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And the language in this, and I don't have it in front of me, unfortunately, stands up against all hate, gender, sexual orientation, race, religion. It just redefines that into the Constitution, or into the law, state law. Madam Clerk, can I move this for approval?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'll move it. Is there support?
Support.
Okay, moved and supported by Vice Chair Palomero. Any further discussion on the resolution? And what I'll also do is send this to our colleagues in Macomb and Oakland County as well, so that they can make sure that they let their respective state reps and state senators know that they support this, and hopefully they'll support it at that commission level as well. Hearing no further discussion, please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. And this will be going to the State House for hopeful movement before they adjourn. Next item.
We are returning to the agenda, reports from committees. We're on Report A from the Committee on Economic Development. There are 2 items listed.
And if those persons on Zoom or on the telephone can hear my voice, we fully vet the items that come before us at the full board during our committee process, and they come to us for final disposition. Commissioner Hados?
Thank you, Madam the Chair. I move to receive and file item 1 and approve item 2.
It's been moved by Commissioner Hados. Is there support? Supported by Vice Chair Bodum. Baydoun, any discussion on the 2 items on the economic development report? Is Mr. Beatty in the audience by any chance? He'll be here in a moment. Oh, he's on Zoom if that's working. And he was in committee. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, if we can't get him on Zoom, he did come to the committee meeting. This will be his second appointment to this reappointment to the Airport Authority Board. Any discussion on these 2 items? All right. Microphone, please, sir.
Great member of the board, and he contributed a lot to many of the success that they report.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, here.
I want to mention, Mr. Beatty was very active and excellent board member at the Airport Authority, contribute to too many success, present a lot of good idea to make the airport win the GD Power Award, one of the best in the nation in the customer services. So, and with his reappointment, I'd like to thank him for his contribution.
Thank you so much. And Mr. Beatty does provide a great deal of service to the Airport Authority Board as well as the other boards that he serves on. Any discussion on the 2 items, economic development? Hearing none, please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item, please.
We're on Report B from the Committee on Public Services. There are 8 items listed on pages 2 through 4 of the agenda.
Commissioner Marecki?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move for approval items 1 through 8, with Commissioner Clemente being the maker of the motion on number 7.
Commissioner Basham?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 2, that's already done, as I understand it, so the project, so why are we voting for this? Why is this in front of us?
Someone can speak to item number 2, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Alan Coe. I'm the Assistant Division Director of Engineering. Good morning.
Morning.
So my understanding of the question is, why do we have to extend the contract where in fact the bridge has been done?
Yes.
Okay. There are still few items that this company, Waytrim, needs to be done. We still have, although the bridge is already open, they still have to do the punch list and also the as-built to be submitted. That's the reason why we're asking for 1-year extension from November 23 to November of 24. So there's still some tasks that they need to be completed. Their contract will be expired in November in a few months.
This extends the term, but not the dollar amount
Yes, correct.
for the punch list items. Okay, Commissioner Basham?
Yeah, it's just that I noticed that the work is already done, the road is open. And I was wondering if this was for a past contract or a future contract, and now I found out it's for a past contract, so it helps me to understand I can see what's-
Normally, even though the project has been open for public use, there's still a lot of work to be done after the construction. They have to do the punch list, they have to do the as-built drawing, they have to do, all the requirements to close the projects. So that's why we're asking our designer. Those are the tasks that designer needs to be completed. That's part of their contract.
Well, if it was part of the original contract, why wouldn't it be in one contract versus doing a contract, vote on it, and then come back in front of the commission again to vote on future work that's done by the same folks from the previous contract? And it wasn't a complete contract. That's my thing. And it was open. So I was just wondering. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any additional questions on the public services agenda items? Commissioner Marecki.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'd also like to make Commissioner Haddis the maker of the motion on number 5.
Thank
Duly
you.
noted.
Thank you.
Any additional questions on the public services report? All right. Hearing none, please vote.
Motion carries. And have Commissioner Haddis as the maker of the motion on item number 5 and Commissioner Clemente as the maker of the motion on item number 7.
Thank you. Next item.
We're moving to page 5 of the agenda, Report C from the Committee on Ways and Means. There are 12 items listed on pages 5 through 7 of the agenda.
Commissioner Kinlock.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Prior to making a motion to approve the items under the report, Madam Chair, just would like to ask if you would like Scott, our assessor, to come, because it's item number 8 and 9. Item 9 is the levying of the winter tax, and item 8 is the report which sets forth the explanations of the various tax rates. Is Scott present?
How about we move it and then we'll have him come under discussion?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I move approval of the Ways and Means Report, items 1 through 12.
Moved and supported by Commissioner Marecki. Scott, if you can make your way to the podium. Question, Commissioner Anderson?
Oh, it's not on this one item, I'm sorry. I'm looking on item 1.
Certifying revenue in the county health fund?
Yes.
Director Scott, hold on one sec. Director El Sayed. Your question, Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. To our director of that department, there's my understanding this is the lead hazard control program, and I just wondered if we have a report yet about that information that was requested at our meeting, or if it's still being worked on.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Abdul Al-Sayed, Director, Health, Human, and Veteran Services. The report was requested by Commissioner Scott, I believe, just in terms of investments that had been made. And that information was actually sent to her office, or actually sent to her office, I think, yesterday. So if there's further information that's needed, or Commissioner Anderson, if you'd personally like to see it, we can certainly send it through.
If you could, I thought everyone was going to get it, but I'd just like to get a copy of it also.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Just send that to all commissioners,
Yes,
please.
that's what I
Will do. So the request was specific to investments made in Highland Park. So I just want to
I don't.
to set that understanding.
You all set, Commissioner?
If I could, I was hoping we would get information on all of the lead-based paint that's going all over the county. I believe specifically there were questions about that Highland Park may not have received funding, but I do remember that we have approved that in the past. And if I just ask if this was a continuation of that, or since you brought it up, have there been other communities that have been receiving the funding?
We can expand that request and certainly do an audit of where that funding has gone.
Can you bring that information to the committee?
Sure.
Provide that.
So this would be Ways and Means?
Ways and Means, yep, that's where this conversation originated.
Sure.
Or just share it to the chair, then to all commissioners.
Yeah, so just for context, the question that arose was about funding around lead. And I want folks to understand that when it comes to lead exposure, that usually happens in one of three ways. The first is lead in the atmosphere, and that issue has largely been addressed because where that came from was the burning of lead-based gasoline, right? Leaded gasoline, we talk about unleaded gasoline because gasoline used to be leaded. And when we burn leaded gasoline, you can imagine where that lead went. That is largely taken care of. The second, though, is something that was made understood by Flint, which was lead in piping and therefore lead in water. That is not the predominant way that folks are exposed to lead these days. The predominant way, particularly in our communities, is lead in paint. 93% of the housing stock in communities like Highland Park in Detroit was built before 1978. And if that was the case, then there is definitively lead-based paint somewhere in the walls, unless those walls have been fully torn down. Usually when we talk about mitigation, that means you're putting some sort of barrier in front of that wall. But if that's not kept up, the lead-based paint will chip. And unfortunately, lead is sweet to the taste and small children will eat it, and that's how they get exposed to lead. So what we're talking about today is a program focused specifically on housing mitigation. So I just want for folks to understand the scope around which we are discussing and about a particular state-funded program to help with those alleviations. So as I understand the request, and I just want to make sure that I'll be delivering on the request that's asked, is where funding, how much funding we've gotten through that program and where that funding has been deployed. So I'm going to focus on that, if that's okay.
Yes, and just, you don't have to bring it to the committee, just share it with commissioners, just email.
Will do.
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you. Are you all set?
If I could, there's no doubt in my mind, as I explained in committee, that it's a great program to try to address the problem that the children that are exposed to lead-based paint, but it exists in other communities too. And that's what I was trying to make, that it's important that we, if we have to, let's find a way to expand the program to help other communities too. I know it's prevalent in a lot of communities, Dearborn, I believe, the city of Wayne, others that have issues with the lead-based paint as well as lead in the water too. But, and I know you explained that that's really not in your bailiwick about the lead-based or lead paint, not lead paint, but lead in the lines, water lines, that is another program. But I appreciate that. And if you could provide that, that's great. Thank you.
I really appreciate that. And I would say that, you know, we're anytime any child is exposed to lead, that is certainly in our bailiwick. The degree to which we can address the sources of lead is largely a function of where we can get funding. The program that we're talking about today that's focused on mitigation in homes is funded by the state. And unfortunately, even considering our size and the number of children unfortunately affected by lead, it is a limited program. And so I would say that the funding that we get is less a representation of the degree to which we would like to solve this problem and more representation of the degree to which there's funding to solve the problem. And I would, we'll look forward to offering that data to you, and also ask for collective support around driving for more funding so that we really can deploy these funds in the limited spaces, beyond the limited spaces where we can today. So look forward to working with you on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Basham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 10, could somebody explain that?
Okay, that is 160,000, the sheriff's office for supplies for recruitment. Okay, someone from the sheriff's office?
Good morning, Benita Terry, Director of Administration, Sheriff's Office. You had a question on number 10.
Yes.
So this budget adjustment here is just a reallocation to place 160,000 for funding for supplies needed for recruitment and community outreach. And those supplies can be for pamphlets and also the giveaways that are at the table for when we're recruiting, having recruitment fairs.
Is it for wages?
Not for wages. Not for wages. It is also just our advertising for the sheriff's office for recruiting efforts.
No, it's just that we get these amendments to budgets and it's like, it was not clear what the 160,671, that, you know, that's a couple of employees that actually you could be paying. But so when I hear that about advertisement, I just wondered what it's a lot, that's a lot of pamphlets. So I just wondered, you know.
So as I said, you have advertising in there. You also have giveaway items at the recruitment fairs. So it's a couple different items that this is budget adjustment will cover.
Okay, I would like to see a little bit more detail on those items is all I'm saying.
I can send an email with all the detail.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Additional questions before we go to Scott to speak about the apportionment report? Okay, Scott.
Assessment and equalization. Well, first of all, my name is Scott Van Nemmergel, Director of Assessment and Equalization. Good morning. Taking things a little bit out of order, but for the actual purpose of the meeting overall, it's the annual apportionment report, apportionment session of the County Commission. Assessment Equalization Division works as the instrument of the County Commission to fulfill the County Commission's statutory responsibilities for two things. For equalization of assessments in April and apportionment or the spread of tax rates in October, which is the meeting that we're at today. At the local level of government, at the executive branch and the legislative branch, at this superior level of government has oversight responsibility to review those things and make sure that they're in conformance with the Constitution and the statutes of the state. So submitting the apportionment report, it's a compilation, aggregation, analysis of all the tax rates in the 105 taxing jurisdictions within the county. So that's all types, that's the county itself, school districts, college, the zoo, and so on and so forth, to make sure that tax rates are properly computed and properly levied so that there's fairness and equity in the process. And also to review whether they're in conformance with the Headley provisions for the amendment to the Constitution for rolling back and limiting the tax base growth in the local units of government. So the apportionment report has a summary of those tax rates and a review of the dollars to be raised within those taxing jurisdictions. A couple of highlights for that is the millage reduction fraction was 1 in most cases. In other words, the millages did not, in most cases, need to be rolled back. So because of the high inflationary times, the tax base was allowed to grow under the formulas by the full permissible amount in almost every case, with a couple exceptions. And then is another highlight, it's been on the commission's mind in analysis before, was for Schoolcraft College. That millage, just for information, continues to be unreduced. It's unreduced because of the numerically, but it's unreduced because of the provisions that were borne out a couple of years ago by the voters for approving an override of that process. So those are a couple of highlights. There's a millage rate request report for the county itself too, which is kind of a complement to the report. It's not directly tied to it, but it's indirectly included in the report amongst all the other taxing entities.
All right, are there any questions about the apportionment report? Commissioner Basham?
Yes, I keep thinking about these old seniors that I represent downriver. And we have folks that are doing well. We have folks that, and quite frankly, I remember this, that don't flush the toilet unless they do number 2 because their water bill is tied to their sewer bill, which is tied to, they can't afford it. And so when you look at our overall assessments in Wayne County, we're probably the highest tax county in the state of Michigan. We're the largest county, but the proportionally probably highest tax. So I would hope that in the future, when we go through this, I'm going to support this reluctantly, but in the future that we look at those sorts of things, look at the overall taxes on seniors. Doesn't matter whether you're a Detroit senior, or you're downriver senior, or a Livonia senior, we have people that can't afford to pay their bills. So we've got the DIA, we got the zoo, we got SMART, and it goes on and on and on. Each one of them is important. But the thing of it is, I just think we have a responsibility as a body, legislative body, to look at all of it and look at who we actually work for. We don't work for ourselves, we work for them. And so I think we should be a little bit more reluctant when we're just voting to vote on this assessment. So I just thought I'd spare that and be the skunk to picnic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sure every municipality has, because I know the city of Detroit has, if a senior is over 80 years old, their property taxes can be eliminated. I want to say it's 80 years old. And
there are a number of programs out there for persons of limited income.
Yeah.
There are programs for summer tax deferment for payment. There's a disabled veterans exemption. There are a number of different things that are out there for from some tax relief from the tax burden. And that's a state statute that's administered locally. So that would be something that would be applicable to every community, including Detroit.
Because that's very important, because as seniors unfortunately get older, their income decreases and that becomes a barrier paying the property taxes. Vice Chair Potem Badoo.
Just to that point, Madam Chair, for example, to Scott's point, in the city of Dearborn, under the poverty guidelines, homeowners qualify for 50% reduction of their property taxes. Also, if you are a disabled veteran, you don't pay no taxes.
Yeah, some very helpful programs for persons in need. So definitely that's something that the public should be aware of and take advantage of.
Additional questions for Scott? Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. It's been moved by Commissioner Kinlock, supported by Commissioner Marecki, the Ways and Means Report. Hearing no additional discussion, please vote. Oh, it's not working. Okay.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item, please.
We're moving to report D from the Committee on Health and Human Services. There are 5 items listed on pages 7 and 8 of the agenda.
Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move to receive and file item number 1 and move to approve 3, 4, and 5.
Receive and file items number 1 and 2. Move for approval items 3, 4, and 5. It's been moved by Commissioner Baker McCormick, supported by Commissioner Haydos. Commissioner Kleen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to comment on item one, I know this has been a concern with a lot of commissioners and people who receive phone calls. The report had to do with getting out the certificates for cremations. And I think we all received phone calls 3, 4, 5 years ago with regards to this, but the report is now showing that it's almost instantaneous now in the over there. And people are getting back to almost within a day, almost every single one. So I just wanted to let my colleagues know that what that report showed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I know she's not here, but I just want to recognize Janelle Allen, who really worked diligently and hard to turn around the medical examiner's office. She spent many days and nights for many months making sure that it was to the expectation that our residents expected to be. So if she's listening, just want to thank Janelle Allen for her efforts in moving the medical examiner's office. And that's a good report that her efforts have been working well because of the cremation reports are now down to where they should be. Any additional discussion on Health and Human Services? Hearing none, please vote.
Motion carries.
Next item, please.
We are on report E from the Committee on Audit. There is one item listed.
Commissioner Basham?
Like to move one item to receive and file.
Been moved by Commissioner Basham, supported by Commissioner Jesus. Is there discussion on the audit report? Hearing none, please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Next item, please.
We're on report F from the Committee on Public Safety, Judiciary, and Homeland Security. There are 8 items listed on pages 8 through 10 of the agenda.
Commissioner Clark-Coleman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move items 1 through 8. I'd like to move approval of items 1 through 8.
Been moved by Commissioner Clark-Coleman, supported by Commissioner Scott. Any discussion on the items in public safety? Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wondered, is there someone here who could speak to this item?
Which one?
Which item?
I'm sorry, 3. I'm
3?
looking at it, but
Okay.
Item number 3.
Item number 3, okay.
Good morning. Through the chair, Ebony McCann, Department of Health, Human Veteran Services. The department is requesting approval to enter into a 3-year contract with 1 2-year option to renew with ETRS, Education, Training, and Research Services. This vendor provides drunk driver jail reduction services to individuals who've been sentenced to a term of probation with an offense of operating while under the influence.
thank you for that. I just wondered, is this, does this result in a reduction of the penalties that if they go through this program, that they are able to get their license sooner? Or does it have any effect on their driver's license?
So the individuals who are, who successfully complete this program do have the option or the opportunity to have their court costs and fees reduced. Any options or any privileges as it pertains to their driver's license is under the jurisdiction of the supervising judge that is over their term of probation.
Do we have any plans to have recidivism reports on this?
So as it pertains to this program, Commissioner, I can proudly share that for fiscal year 2023, we provided programming to a total of 232 participants. 110 carried over from the previous fiscal year. Of the 122 new enrolls, we have 28 that are currently enrolled in programming. 199 successfully completed the program. There was 1 transfer and 4 unsuccessful completions. As it pertains to the overall recidivism rate for Wayne County, again, I can proudly share that the Office of Community Corrections or the Department of Community Corrections, under the leadership of our our Community Corrections Advisory Board Chair, Commissioner Clark Holman. We have successfully assisted with the decrease of recidivism rate for Wayne County. So the recidivism rate for Wayne County for fiscal year 2023 was 12.8%, which for the 6th consecutive year is less than the state's overall prison commitment rate. So Wayne County has sent fewer individuals to prison by providing adequate programming in the community and sometimes in the jail. And so that's something I think we all can be proud of.
Very good, very good. I just was curious about that, whether or not programs such as this are actually working. We are all concerned about drunk drivers being on the roads, and sometimes we have recidivism. And so I appreciate that report. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good job.
Thank you, Ebony. Very good. Commissioner Basham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Does this apply to circuit courts and district courts or just circuit court only?
The programming that we provide funding for is for circuit court only. So individuals have been sentenced to a term of probation by a 3rd Circuit Court judge.
So shouldn't we apply the same thing to our district courts? Because they handle the drunk folks also.
That is something that we would have to take up with the state of Michigan.
We will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How would a citizen end up in this program? Is it only through the judge, or is there another method of entering the program?
So the primary recommendation or referrals come from a 3rd Circuit Court judge. However, other community partners can refer individuals to programming through recommendations. We receive referrals from our Wayne County Sheriff's Office, the Michigan Department of Corrections Probation Office, and other vendors that identify potential defendants that may be eligible for the program. But as a result, you have to be sentenced to a term of probation. So you have to be under the supervision of the Michigan Department of Corrections.
Any additional questions on the public safety report? Okay, hearing none, please vote.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item, please.
We are on page 12 of the agenda.
11?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're on page 11 of the agenda.
Okay.
Report G from the Committee on Government Operations. There are 4 items listed.
Thank you. Commissioner Dobb?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move item 1 for receive and file and move for approval items number 2 through 4.
Moved by Commissioner Dobb, supported by Commissioner Killeen. Any discussion on the 4 items under government operations? Commissioner Maricki?
Hi, I would just like to find out more about number 4.
Someone to speak to number 4.
Hello, Hector Roman, Director of Information Technology. Number 4 is we're trying to do something different for the county. Instead of each department having a separate contract for a Canon copier, we're doing one contract that's going to be cover the entire county, every department. One, to leverage efficiencies, so departments don't have to process contracts and POs for each device. We'll just have one contract, one PO. And also 2, for cost savings. With the buying power, we can leverage the amount of devices that we have and the copies that we print, we've leveraged a lower cost for that.
This will be a 5-year plan of replacing.
Yes, replacing and also looking at our print fleet overall and reducing devices when we can to best optimize our print fleet and also for best practices.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Let me ask Tim Johnson to speak to what we're going to do with the commission side. Tim?
I'm happy to report that we're going to be the first department to take advantage of this new copy program. We're going to be leasing 2 high-capacity color printers and 1 high-capacity black and white printer. We met with the folks from Canon this week, and we hope to have the devices probably in 8 to 10 weeks.
We've had several breakdowns with our copiers and on the 7th and 8th floor. So thank you for that. Okay, thank you. Y'all said Commissioner? Okay, thank you. Commissioner Baker McCormick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is to item number 3. For the clerk's office. Just wanted to know a little bit more about this.
Anyone here from the clerk's office?
About the election night reporting services.
Bills is here, but I don't see him today. Hey, Commissioner, maybe reach out to the clerk directly. No one is here apparently from the clerk's office. Any additional questions on the government operations report? Yes. Commissioner Killeen.
On what Commissioner Baker McCormick was asking, we first approved this contract a couple of years ago, right? The clerk just compiles and totals, vote totals for the county. All the local communities report to the clerk and the clerk posts countywide totals. And was it about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, incorrect totals were being posted and people would look and they'd see 76% reported, and then you look an hour later and it was 54%. And that's when the clerk went to this company. And so we've had 2 or 3 years now. This is the renewal of that contract. And guess what? It's been accurate. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Any additional questions on government operations? Hearing none, please vote.
Motion carries.
New business?
We are moving to page 12, new business. There is 1 item listed on the agenda and 3 on the addenda. Item number 1 is requesting commission approval of a 5-year grant agreement between the Charter County of Wayne and the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Office of Child Support, not to exceed $203,474,899, with the county match included, to provide federal Title 4D funding for the 3rd Judicial Circuit Court.
Okay, and who is here to speak on this item?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Lynn Roberts, Chief Financial Officer for the 3rd Circuit Court. I'm also here with Aaron Lincoln, who is the friend of the court for the 3rd Circuit Court. What we're presenting today is a 5-year contract for services for, or Title 4D services for the friend of the court. This is where the primary operations for the friend of the court is funded. It is a federal grant where federal funds of 66% are provided, and the county contributes a local match of 34% for this grant. So this is where all of our activities for the friend of the court are funded.
Excuse me, there were some time constraints, which is why this is on for new business. It didn't go through committee, but it is a grant. Although we do have a match, the majority of the funds are coming from the grant from the state of Michigan. Are there any questions on this item? And we'll take all the new business items together. Any questions on this item? Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item on new business.
Item number 2 is requesting commission approval of a grant agreement between the Charter County of Wayne and the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $168,491 with no county match required for the fiscal year 2024 Sexual Assault Victims' Rights Grant.
Okay, Tony, are you here to speak to this?
Through the chair, good morning, Tony Guerrero, Chief of Legislation, Grants and Community Relations for the Prosecutor's Office. This is another example of Prosecutor Kim Worthy seeking a grant that is $168,491. no county match involved. This is for the fiscal year 2024 Sexual Assault Victims' Rights Grant. This grant will fund the cost of one sexual assault victim advocate and one clerical specialist. The term of the agreement is from October the 1st of this year through September the 30th of next year. This is part and parcel of the sexual assault kit team working diligently to try and locate and prosecute the offenders that have been found as a result of testing the 11,314 rape kits. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate grants to fund this much needed program. So thank you for that. And hopefully we'll get grants after the 1 year to continue to fund this.
I will convey the thanks to Madam Prosecutor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any discussion on this item before we go to the third item? Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Item number 3.
Item number 3 is requesting commission approval of a 2-year construction contract between the Charter County of Wayne and Keo and Associates not to exceed $3,839,134.63 to construct the youth home remote parking lot at 1333 East Hancock, south of the CJC.
All right, and who's speaking to this item?
Good morning, Nellie Lee, Assistant Corporation Counsel. This contract is a 2-year contract with Keo and Associates. Keo is to construct and commission a remote parking lot at the former site of the Lincoln Hall of Justice Youth Home. This parking lot will serve for employees at the CJC.
So I remember we tore down the building, correct? So this is make a parking lot for where the building stood. Will there be shuttles to transport the employees from there to the CJC?
At this time, there's no plan in place for a shuttle. However, that is an item that the CJC transition team continually contemplates.
And if there's no shuttle, how are people to get over there?
I think that is something that we are discussing. There's just not a plan in place for that shuttle right now, but that is an item that is continually discussed.
Good morning, Sue Hamoud, Deputy Corporation Counsel. Madam Chair, that is an item that actually came up in discussions yesterday that the CJC transition team is beginning to discuss, and I trust that James can answer that a little bit better at the CJC meeting later this afternoon.
And the questions that I'm sure will come from the meeting today will be, will that be mandatory parking for those individuals? So if you work at X department, your parking space will be there, or that overflow parking?
I do not know the answer to that. Do you know, Ellen?
I do not. Okay.
Good afternoon, or is it still morning? Daryl Jones from Facility Management, Planning and Development, Director, I should say. So to answer that question is that the additional parking is actually, one of the lots is right across from adjacent. I think you visited before from the CJC. Yeah, that parking is from that place.
Not at the Lincoln Hall.
It's not actually at the Lincoln Hall. There's 3 different developments that's happening with this. Lincoln Hall construction, which is being under KO development. They're also handling the KO development construction across from the DPS lot that's what used to perform from that.
There'll be great conversation, further conversation today at the CJC meeting.
That is correct.
Any, Commissioner Clark-Coleman?
I understand. So are you saying that the parking lot is right across the street from?
There's 3 different parking lots, Commissioner. And then the construction of KO equipment is that they're supposed to pave and redo 3 different parking lots. Lincoln Hall is one of them. That's what we told our 2 buildings. That's the major part. And then it's one directly across from the CJC, which was formerly called the DPS lot. And it was attached to a building that we actually purchased and then tore down to make more room for parking.
Okay, so that particular parking lot is right across the street from CJ.
That is correct, directly
So
right
they
across.
must walk across the street.
That is correct. And then basically the other 2 are further down, which is at Lincoln Hall, which is a little distance, but at the same time, as Sue indicated that they will be working on that.
There is one further down at Lincoln Hall of Justice.
That is correct.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of a hike
Yeah,
to
it's
walk.
probably the same distance as First Street is from here to the Guardian Building.
We have shuttles.
I know. That's been a process that we have been working on. I just said I can't commit to anything from there because that's past my pay grade.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you. Any additional questions on this item? This is the company who's going to pave the parking lots. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
Item number 4 is requesting commission approval of retroactive amendment number 1 to a legal services agreement between the Charter County of Wayne and Perkins Law Group not to exceed $75,000 in the collective bargaining negotiations matter.
Good morning, through the chair, Sue Hamu, Deputy Corporation Counsel. This is a legal services contract modification for the Perkins Law Group to continue to assist the administration in the negotiation and finalizing of collective bargaining agreements that we have ongoing with the represented staff of the county. My apologies for this contract being retroactive. I actually signed the transmittal letter for the modification on August 9th. But 2 things happened simultaneously. Obviously, the one thing that happened was that the collective bargaining, the frequency and the intensity of the collective bargaining negotiations intensified during the time, and then I sort of lost track of the contract, which is why you have a retroactive modification before you.
Questions on item number 4? Thank you, Sue, for admitting that it was a human error. It happens. Questions on 4? All right, items 1, 2, 3, and 4 under new business. I see there's a motion by Commissioner Kinlock, supported by Commissioner Dodd. One last time for questions on new business items. Hearing none, please vote. Oh, Commissioner Knieze, you snuck in there after I said, please vote. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I'm sorry,
Knieze.
Madam Chair. I just wanted to ask to abstain on 1 and 2, please.
Abstain on new business 1 and 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Duly noted.
thank you. All right. And let us know when it's time to vote. Okay, board's open, please vote.
Motion carries, and I have Commissioner Kniezek as an abstention on items 1 and 2.
Okay, very good. All right.
We are returning to page 12 of the agenda, upcoming meetings.
Okay, please note the upcoming meetings, special note to Ways and Means, which will be held on Wednesday, November 1st at 9:30. And then after that meeting, we will have Committee of the Whole at 10:30 on Wednesday, November 1st. Please note that if there are any changes to any of the other meetings, Ways and Means is at 9:30 on the 1st, and Committee of the Whole is at 10:30 on the 1st. Commissioner Basham?
Sure. We will cancel October 25th an audit because there's additional work that needs to be done before committee meeting. Thank you.
Audit for the 25th is postponed. All right, next item.
We are on page 13 of the agenda, testimonial resolutions and certificates of appreciation. There are 8 items listed on the agenda and 1 on the addenda.
Right. Is there a motion to approve the testimony resolutions and certificates of appreciation? Moved by Commissioner Kinlock, supported by Commissioner Haydus. Any discussion on these certificates and resolutions? Hearing none, please vote.
Yes. Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Next item.
We are on memoriams. There are 3 names listed.
Okay. Any discussion on the names listed for memoriams? Any discussion on those names? Any names to be added? None. Please stand for a moment of silence. Thank you so much. Next item, please.
Public comments.
Okay, is there anyone on Zoom? How are we able to hear people on Zoom? Anyone on Zoom who wish to give public comments? You have 2 minutes. Anyone on Zoom? Anyone on the telephone? Anyone in the chambers? Anyone? Chambers, Zoom, or telephone? Do we have any emails, Madam Clerk?
We have 1 email. It's from Anthony Plesia. Dear Commissioners, please stand up against the Biden administration's efforts to cede U.S. sovereignty to the World Health Organization via amendments to the International Health Regulations and the Pandemic Preparedness Treaty. Please defund or restrict funding to any county departments that enforce World Health Organization edits. Please also stand against HR 3557 and HR 4141 in Congress, which seek to strip away state and local control in permitting cell tower placements and defund or restrict funding to county departments that enforce these bills should they become law. Remember in Federalist 33, Alexander Hamilton wrote that lower level governments have the right to treat acts by the federal government that are not pursuant to the Constitution as acts of usurpation.
Any additional comments?
No additional emails.
All right, thank you so much. Next item.
Reconsiderations.
There are none.
Remarks by members.
Let me go first with remarks by members. Let me let everyone know today is a very special day. It's our very own Pamela Lane's birthday. So let's say happy birthday to Pam for all that she does. Keep us all whipped into shape. So thank you, Pam, and have a very, very good birthday today. We have some commissioners for remarks by members. I'll go to you last. Commissioner Killeen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just putting together a couple of notes here. You know, the whole situation in Gaza really has me very upset. And I can't help but draw the parallels of what's happening over there to the nation of my of the Killeen heritage, where we were lucky enough to be right next door to a world power right across the Irish Sea that kept its boot on the neck of the Irish for 500 years, with talk of the Irish being an inferior race, was the language at the time. It can probably be considered England's first colony. And there was regular rebellions through those 500 years. And then when the Irish famine hit in the mid 1800s, there was no help from England for the Irish people because we were an inferior race. And there was comments in Parliament at the time to just let them starve because it would open up more land for British peerage to have there. But that was only settled through a peace process. And that's what I want to emphasize here today. What we saw in Ireland was that violence begat more violence. The Irish Free State 1920 or so, that was created by an act of the of Parliament. And then a little later on, when we had what the Irish referred to as the Troubles in Northern Ireland for 40 years, which is just a pretty brutal civil war. There was a gentleman by the name of John Hume. And for 30, 35 years, he was a voice in the wilderness to say we have to have peace, that we're going nowhere with this. I was not a fan of the IRA in what they were up to with the violence. It was clear that a majority of Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland wanted a peaceful resolution. They did not for both the Protestants and the Catholics trying to settle this thing. And it was only through a peace process and recognizing everyone's humanity that was be able to be settled. And I think that's the situation here. This has gone on forever. And retaliation, and then retaliation for retaliation, then retaliation, that is getting us nowhere. People of courage, both in Palestine and in Israel, have to stand up and say, we need to find a peaceful settlement to this. There's no doubt that being a poor nation right next door to a large one, Ireland took it in the neck just because of that big power that sat across. And this is what the Palestinians are facing today. So I just want to, we have to have the voices of peace come forward, and it's the only way to break this. The Palestinian people deserve self-determination, and they deserve a much better deal than they've been getting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think we all agree with that there has to be a peaceful settlement in order for this to move forward and for less bloodshed that's crippling the whole region. Thank you. Commissioner Kniezek?
I'd like to wait until after Commissioner Maydoun.
Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two quick things. I just, well, make it three. First thing that comes to mind after what Commissioner Colleen said made me think about on Sunday evening, I was at an event, NAACP Western Wayne annual dinner, and someone came up next to me as I was at a counter after the event was over and mentioned what had happened to the young man over in Chicago being horribly killed and his mother injured by some deranged man. And it just, it's heartbreaking. I mean, he was 6 years old, as I recall from the story. I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and just the horrific incident, just, I've not gotten over that. Just to think about that. I just wanted to send prayers out to that little boy's family. But on the other two things that I have, we had a memoriam for Susan Schreiber. While I didn't know Susan, we all know her husband, David, that works for the county. And I had seen an obituary, and I wasn't sure it was our David, but it was his wife. And I just wanted to extend on behalf of everyone here on the commission, and we've done it by the memoriam, but I just want to let everyone know that is David that we've seen before us many times, speaking on the ARPA allocations and the monumental work that he's done for the county. My sympathy personally goes out to David and his family. Last thing I have is that prior to the meeting starting, I had put a handout on everyone's desk, and it was picked up as a precaution, I think, but what it was, and just wanted to make you aware of it. And I think it's going to be distributed to you by Pam. It's the policy, the travel policy I'd ask for, and I wanted to thank Eddie Fakuri for providing that on a timely basis. It just gives us an idea of there is a policy in place, how it's handled, what it has to be for. And the administration does have a policy in place, which I assume they did, but we'd never seen it. And so that is something that you can have this morning to review yourself. I've looked at it. It's a little dated, but I think it was updated. It is probably needs another look at it, and I think they had agreed with that. But it is something that we can all look at, and I think and be reassured that the travel, we see some travel expenditures just continually come through. And I realize with a county as large as this one is, and the number of people that are in the administration, as well as other positions in the county, you would expect to see a great deal of them. But I just wanted us to be keeping an eye on that. But anyway, you'll get that hopefully before the meeting's over or shortly afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you. And Pam will pass that out to everyone so you can look at theirs. And this again is the administration's travel policy. The commission has one as well, which I am actually in the process of revamping. So thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chair Pro Tem Baydun.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, let me just say thank you, Commissioner Anderson, for speaking about the heinous crime that took place in Chicago, where a 6-year-old Palestinian American was stabbed 26 times and his mother is fighting for her life for simply being a Palestinian. This kid escaped the war from the West Bank 10 years ago, and he became the first Palestinian casualty on American soil. And all of this is contributed to the hateful rhetorics being spewed by many of our top elected officials about the Palestinians and Muslims in general. You have these Islamophobics that are feeding into this hateful rhetorics. Madam Chair, today my heart is heavy as I make these remarks about the genocidal war being waged against the Palestinians in Gaza. Today I'm wearing this kufiya to express solidarity with the Palestinian people under occupation and to honor the memory of the over 500 innocent civilians who were massacred when the Israeli Air Force bombed the Baptist Hospital in Gaza. Despite what the media is telling you that this was done by the other team, it is not. They're notorious for twisting realities and facts. And this bombing was done by the use of one of our US supplied smart bombs. Most of the victims were women and children. This is not self-defense. This is genocide. Let me say this. I condemn the killing of all innocent civilians, regardless of their religion, ethnicity, and background. If anyone thought otherwise of me, that would say much more about them than it would about me. We are all united in our calls for peace in the Middle East, but peace only works through justice. That has been true throughout history, and it is true now. If we want to break the cycle of violence that costs so many innocent lives, we must create the conditions for peace to prevail. We must truly believe that no child is more valuable than another, and that all of God's children deserve to live with dignity. So we must ask, how can peace prevail when Palestinians are routinely stripped of basic human rights and lack access to healthcare, clean water, electricity, and security? How can peace prevail when over 2 million Palestinians, over half of them children, are trapped in an open-air prison called Gaza? When their apartments, schools, and hospitals are bombed by Israel every few years, fueling more trauma and desperation? How can peace prevail when Palestinians are subjected to daily humiliation at Israeli checkpoints? When Palestinian children are routinely detained by Israel without explanation? When mosques and churches are vandalized? These are the daily realities of life under occupation that are rarely making headlines. Permanent military occupation is not a formula for peace. Israel's system of apartheid has been recognized by human rights organizations around the world, including in Israel. Permanent apartheid will not make anyone's children safer and will fail to break the cycle of violence we are witnessing. Sending more weapons and bombs to Israel is the opposite of promoting peace. It is encouraging more war, more violence, and more tragedy. Funding more violence with our US tax dollars is not the answer. We urge the Biden administration and Congress to adopt an even-handed approach founded on international human rights, including conditioning foreign aid to all parties on their adherence to international law. This is an opportunity for the international community with the United States at the forefront to end the suffering of the Palestinian people and to bring an end to the cycle of violence. We plead to the Biden administration to work on ending this war and to enforce and demand an immediate ceasefire and open the border with Egypt to provide more humanitarian aid to the Palestinians. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Pro Tem Bacon. Thank you for those emotional, passionate remarks. It's amazing that from the beginning of time, actually, we've had these conflicts from Ireland and Europe, as Commissioner Colleen spoke about, from Jim Crow laws in the South in this country, Ukraine and Russia. So we want to continue to pray for peace in the Middle East, continue to pray for the countries in Africa who are fighting each other. Genocide and starvation is happening there as well. So I think this, our collective prayer will hopefully work, but of course, prayer without faith and without works is dead. So there needs to be some works as well from our country to help those persons in the Middle East right now as they face this tragedy every day. So thank you for those passionate remarks, and we'll continue to pray for everyone in the Middle East and for the suffering to stop. Commissioner Haydus?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I listened to the news, listened to my colleague. We have a lot of common sense comment. We feel the pain in the Middle East, in Europe, Ukraine. And I see our great nation sending more arms and weapons. I see that we fueling the war. We add into it instead of putting our effort and resources toward peace. I didn't see that happen at all. When we send the biggest ship we have in the world to the Middle East to fight on one side, not the other. We're not promoting peace. That the question is, the situation been since the beginning of the time. And I didn't see any sincere work from the leadership in our great nation who have the ability to put peace plan on the table and move forward with it. The only sincere president in our history worked toward peace was Jimmy Carter. And the proof of that, he have Jordan, Egypt, Israel recognize each other to exist. And he was trying to continue that effort to reach permanent peace agreement, but he did not get re-elected. And since I didn't see any effort toward peace, there are many other involvement from the world to blame in the situation in the Middle East. Whatever they support on one side or the other. I hope everybody start praying for peace and get the attention of the leadership in Washington work toward peace, not fuel the war. Thank you.
Commissioner Dodd?
Madam Chair, I'll keep my remarks brief, excuse me. I just want to say I agree with everything that Commissioner Baidoon said. And I just want to say, talk a little bit about the importance of not turning away from this as much as it might make us feel terrible. It's a terrible thing to witness. You know, it might make us feel sad. It might make us feel depressed. But bearing witness to this atrocity and this genocide and ethnic cleansing that is going on is so important. We have to watch and bear witness and remember the truth, and so that history will be recorded the way that it is actually happening. And, you know, as much as it might hurt and feel horrible, it's the least that we can do for these people that are experiencing the worst things imaginable. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. You are absolutely correct. And again, and we have to also talk to our children about this. My 15 and 16-year-old have very strong opinions on this, and I'm glad they're paying attention to what's happening in the world, and they're forming their own minds. And I had a healthy debate with them, and I'm proud of the stance that they're taking on making sure that peace is throughout that region of the world, but understanding the history as well and how it got to this point. Commissioner Kniezek.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I wanted to also raise my voice in support of Commissioner Baidoon and Commissioner Haddis and the remarks that they shared. I know I don't have to tell any one of us the incredible honor and privilege that we have of representing 115, 120,000 people across the county. I feel so very blessed to represent an incredibly diverse district. It has been one of the greatest blessings of my life to know and to experience the love and support of the Arab community and the love and the support of the Muslim community. My life is better because of it. And so as I look out across what is happening in the world today and how it is impacting the community that I represent, it's hard not to, in some way, feel that pain. I'm not trying to compare my experiences to anybody, but when your community is hurting, you know it and you feel it. And our community is certainly hurting today. I think one of the challenges that I've seen across this debate is that everything seems to be zero sum, that you can't support a group or an individual without automatically being assumed to be hateful or wishing ill upon another. That's certainly not the case. I believe in the rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination. I also don't want any harm to befall the Jewish community. We know that there's a rise in anti-Semitism in this country. We should stand against that. We should support our Jewish brothers and sisters in that way. We know that what happened on October 7th was wrong. Killing innocent people is wrong. We should have no problem saying that. We should have no problem condemning that. We also should not be responding to those wrongs with even more wrongs. Killing innocent people is a war crime. And I refuse to be given the option of responding to one war crime with even more war crimes. What is being done to the Palestinian people is wrong. What has been done to the Palestinian people for decades is wrong. No one in this country would accept the conditions that the Palestinian people live under on a daily basis. An inability to vote, an inability to access healthcare, an inability to have clean and running water, an inability to leave your home, an inability to visit your family. And if you're given those opportunities, it is made so onerous and so difficult and so painful as to discourage you from attempting it ever again. I know that we want to say and that we want to feel like there's nothing we can do. I've heard folks say, this has been going on for thousands of years. What are we going to do about it? It has not been going on for thousands of years. What we are witnessing today is the direct result of actions that were taken in the early 1900s. This is not a 1,000-year-old situation. This is a decades-old situation. And if we want to bring about peace in the region, and I want to be clear, I want peace for all people of all nations, of all faiths, of all races. At the mosque earlier this week, their call was very clear: peace and justice for all people, for all faiths, and in all places. I want the safety and the security of the Jewish people. I want the safety and the security of the Christian people. I want the safety and security of the Muslim people that are living in this region. We will not achieve that safety, and we will not achieve that peace if we continue down the path that we are on. Failing to allow humanitarian aid into the region, forcibly, again, removing people from their homes and forcing them into the southern part of the country, leveling the country so that folks have no place to return to. This is not a solution to the problem. And so I know folks would also say that, well, why are you speaking out? You guys are just a couple county commissioners, right? I believe so very strongly that in this situation, you're right, it doesn't affect me personally, but we also shouldn't look to Arabs and Muslims around the world and ask them to be the perfect victims before we extend our hearts. We shouldn't ask them to fight these battles on their own. We have an obligation, I believe, to raise our voices for what's right. I don't want to be looking back on my life decades from now and saying, I wish I would have stood on the right side of humanity. I don't want to be looking back on my life and saying that when my voice was needed, I stood silent. That silence is a problem in and of itself. And so I'm so grateful that we live in this country to be able to sit here, to raise our voices, to stand behind what we believe is right. And I pray for peace. And I pray for the Palestinians. And I hope that the United States, with its incredible power, uses that power for good and uses that power to bring about resolution. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. And on that note, we will have our meeting adjourned. Thank you.